Yes, I'm here with my friend LL. We don't know her name, but it is LL. And we just read Jonathan Pageau's Rapunzel and the Evil Witch. This is a new book out by him, illustrated by Heather Pollington. Very good book, and I'll give a summary and then we'll kind of talk about it. And Lisette, excuse me, LL, please feel free to jump in at any point. I'm giving away your secret. So yes, of course, once upon a time, in a dark wood, there was an old witch who was full of bitter regrets, and she lived in a small childlike cabin. And her one small joy was her cabbages, called in her native language Rapunzels, that were green flowers that she paid relentless attention to. Now, at the edge of that same forest, there was a poor woodsman and his new wife, starting to make their way in the world. And his new wife was pregnant, and as pregnant women often have sort of strange cravings, she desired Rapunzel's. And the woodsman unfortunately had no money for these, and they became kind of an obsession of hers. One day, while cutting wood in the forest, he chanced upon the witch's home. It was and noticed it was strangely childlike in size and other features. And he took one of those Rapunzel cabbages, and as he left, he heard a voice say, "Do it again, and I'll take what's most precious to you." And that night, he gave it to his wife, and she dreamed dreamless, pure sleep. A few days later, she again desired some Rapunzel cabbages, and the woodsman walked by the house a few times over the next several days. And one day he walked a little too close, and the witch came out, and he pleaded with her for his wife's sake. And she proposed a deal that they trade the cabbage for his firstborn. And he went home and he told his wife about that. And of course, the answer was no. But again, that night, she had bad dreams, restless sleep, and in the morning asked him again. So he went back to the witch's house, and he gathered in his arms as many of the cabbages as he could carry. And the witch was there, and no words were exchanged, but there was an understanding, of course, between them. And he went back home, and his wife ate those, and once again, they had a peaceful and happy home. After a while, their baby was born, and amidst all the activity around that, they forgot their debt. But the witch reasons that they don't really deserve to have a baby. They chose the pleasures of the belly instead. And she looked at her empty garden, and at night she went and took the child, and then she went deep into the forest. And she thought, "You will be my precious golden flower." So Rapunzel grew up with lots of love and attention. Uh, the witch had spells of protection, a circle of protection around the house, and that made Rapunzel's hair grow unnaturally long. And after years, Rapunzel started to plead for her freedom, but the witch told her, "No, you are safe here." Uh, and her beauty grew, and the witch very much knew the power of beauty. So Rapunzel grew to 12 years old, and she one day was walking in the garden, and she saw a boy a little bit her senior, named Zoran, in a tree. And he said she should join him. And so she walked outside the circle of protection, and they sat there a long time looking at the heavens together and the passing of the celestial bodies and everything. And then it came time to go down, and her long hair got tangled in the branches, and she fell. She got blood on her knees, and she yelled. And the witch ran out, and Rapunzel, and Zoran ran away. So the witch took out a cracked mirror and from her pocket, and she asked the question that she had asked before about who is the fairest in the land. And the answer enraged her, and she knew that Rapunzel was in great danger. So the witch, uh, some ways deeper into the woods, built a great tower, and Rapunzel was trapped there. She could look at the birds and the sky, but she couldn't touch anything. And she would sing sad songs, and people would hear these and think they were spirits or elves or something. And over time, woodsmen started to tell a tale of a forest siren that could lead you into great danger. Now, the witch would visit her every day, bringing her food and water and an occasional treat. She would call up to Rapunzel, of course, let down your hair, and she would climb up that way. Now, the prince one day, he heard the singing and he came upon the tower, and he sees the witch go up and down and leave. And so he called up the same way, and he introduced himself as Albert, and they talked all night, and they had weeks of visits. And one day, when the witch visits Rapunzel, she notices the change in her. And Rapunzel asks her again, "When will I leave?" And the witch said, "No, the world is cruel to beauty, but Rapunzel has grown bold from love." And the witch grabbed her by the throat, and she said, "You're never going to leave." And she made the thorns around the base of the tower grow high. Now Albert kept visiting, and one day he gave Rapunzel a flower that she put in her hair, and also her belly began to grow. And the witch, noticing this on one of her visits, struck her and cut her hair, realizing what had happened, that she had a male visitor, a husband. And she took her down the tower through a secret staircase and down a long tunnel, even deeper in the woods. And Albert came up uh, on the hair that the witch had dropped for him, and then when he saw her haggard face, he was shocked, and then she dropped him from the tower, and his crown dropped, and his eyes got pierced by the thorns, and he wandered for years begging, growing weak and frail and bitter, begging and telling people he was a prince and getting laughed at. And Rapunzel also wandered, and she found eventually an old childlike cottage, and it was kind of in ruins, but somewhere in the kitchen she found some Rapunzel cabbage seeds, and she cleaned up the place, and she started growing vegetables there, and she gave birth to twin boy and girl. And she got help also from an aging woodsman and his wife who lived nearby and who had been bereaved by the loss of a child they had endured a few years ago. And Rapunzel, you know, learned many things, and she learned to embroider patterns onto clothing, and she began to sing again. And the woodsman and his wife helped them to rebuild the house and the garden. And so the prince is continuing his wandering, and he's bitter. And he saw that there was a coronation of a new king, and he was telling the those gathered around that that should be me. And he wondered about his mother and his sister who was getting married to the new king, and they laughed at him. and he sulked away to the woods, getting cut, tripped, and twisted his ankle. And then he heard a voice asking, what's going on? And the prince says that I'm just going to wait here to die. And the hermit took him back to his cave. He nursed his foot. He heard the prince's story. And over the next several days, couple of weeks, the hermit is listening to him, talking to him, and spinning flax into cloth all the time. It's kind of the background of their conversations. And hermit says, I've heard a story recently. It's about this peasant boy who climbs up this beanstalk, and he sees this castle, and he goes in there and he plays a harp, and then he's eaten by the giant that lives there. And the prince corrects him, and no, that's not how the story goes. This is my story. This is the story of Jack. And of course, he took the harp away, and the hermit says, "That's right. Yeah, he wouldn't play the harp without taking it away from the giant first, and that'd be kind of like eating raspberries or something without plucking them from the thorns first." And then another day, the hermit tells him another story. A princess was chased into the woods by her stepmother, and she was tricked into a deep sleep. Uh, only to there yeah, there was another story where the princess was chased into the woods by her stepmother, and then she was tricked into a deep sleep. Only a true kiss from a prince would awaken her. And so the prince searched for a while, and then he couldn't find her, so he just abandoned the search, went back home. And then, of course, this prince, corrected him, and that's my very own story. The That's the story of my mother, and no, the prince found her, and you know. So the hermit tells him, "Yes, yes, right. These are your own stories. Maybe you should attend to those." As his foot healed, and he said goodbye. So the prince left the hermit, and as he wandered, he started to appreciate strangers' generosity. And he thanked heaven for all the food and the kindness that he got. And then one day he heard a crow cawing a lot, and then there was silence. And in the silence, he suddenly heard this faint voice singing, and he realized that it was that of his beloved, and he followed it for days and he got, bruised and cut up and everything until he reached a small clearing, and Rapunzel saw him and rushed out to him, and her tears cured his fell into his eyes and cured his blindness. And then she introduced him to his two young children, and yeah, they lived together, and he knew that he should never return to the castle, and be happy with his family, and that if Jack knew of the existence of him and his children, that they might be in trouble. So he decided to try to be happy and contented with the domestic life there. So yeah, so that was Jonathan Pageau's version of Rapunzel. He kind of ties it in with other stories. He has published three books of fairy tales, and this is the third one. He's also done like a Snow White and um, a Jack and the Beanstalk. But in this book, there's references to other ones, and especially the Jack and the Beanstalk, who Jack ends up becoming the king that he would have been if he had not been thrown from the tower and wandered for years, bitter and resentful. But yeah, what did you think about this story? How do you like it?
Mm. I don't know, just with the well, kind of going back to the Jack and the Beanstalk again, it just kind of highlighted to me how like both stories are kind of different because in Jack and the Beanstalk, it's all kind of about rising up in status.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what this version of Jack was able to do.
Yeah.
But Prince Albert had to be content and he accepted like a lowering of status
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
too, you know,
Yeah.
and that brought him his own happiness still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their actions are different too, right? Like Jack had climbed the beanstalk kind of relentlessly. In Pageau's version, he does three different castles up there, including one that's like very, very high up, celestial kind of maybe harp and math or, you know, the
Mm,
harmony of the universe. He approaches that. And but 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 the prince in this story in Rapunzel kind of he's bitter, resentful, wandering in the low, wandering blind in the low thorns and everything. So yeah, it's a
mm,
very different story in how he acts too, and how both of them.
mm. Yeah, like from the beginning, though, I just noticed there's like a little bit more sympathy for the witch in the beginning, which I hadn't seen as much in the Grimm's brother version we read of the story.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think there was, but yeah, in this
yeah.
version they try to. I don't know if I said that in my summary, but they try to explain how the witch kind of only had the Rapunzel cabbages and the woodsman wants those, and then that's kind of the only thing she has going on in her life, I guess.
Hmm.
And then yeah, she does reason, well, if these people are such bad parents that they're willing to trade some cabbages for a child, then maybe they don't deserve to be parents. And of
Hmm.
course, that's self-serving reasoning, but there's some logic to it. And yeah, like she doesn't have anything else in her life, like I mentioned. So yeah, she's a
Hmm.
little more of a sympathetic character.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and in this version of the story, interestingly, the witch seems to be the evil queen from the Snow White story.
Yeah, yeah, she
Yeah.
is. Yeah, after she was banished from the Snow White story to like a childlike house. I don't know if she's gonna end up being the Hansel and Gretel gingerbread lady or something. But
Hmm.
anyway, it's maybe there's just it's childlike
Hmm.
house. It's a symbol of kind of immaturity, a lack of development.
Hmm.
It may be something just about yeah attra- the strange allure or something, but like one who has their head screwed on straight would look at such a house and know like something's wrong there and to kind of stay away, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, she is the banished the banished evil stepmother from Snow White who was obsessed with beauty and using beauty and preserving it and not letting natural processes take effect and including the passing of the generations. And you get old and it's time for the young people, including your stepdaughter, to,
Hmm.
you know, have their moment in the sun, have their enjoy their beauty and love and everything.
Hmm. And once she's at this stage of her life, it seems it's kind of a continuation of her imbalance. Um, so so she had an kind of a spoken word kind of contract with the father to uh, that he can get as much of the cabbages as he wants in exchange for the child. And um, yeah, so he eventually comes to get all the Rapunzels and she collects the child, even though the couple had forgotten about the promise they made.
Yeah,
And
conveniently enough.
yeah, but she still comes and gets the child, and she refers to the child as or Rapunzel as a beautiful flower or golden flower. Um, and she takes her and becomes very overprotective to where she's isolated from the outside world. Um, and there's like a line in this story where where it said that the witch knows the dark power of beauty. Um,
Yeah.
so, so yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of wisdom she learned from her first experience as the evil queen, but she's still not right, and she's still not a balanced or kind of healthy person yet.
Yeah, she does. I mean, she understands the power of beauty before she used it to gain power for herself, even to where she would kill her husband. She would try to kill her stepdaughter. And now, yes, she does have something like love or some love for the cabbages or for Rapunzel, that sort of is like this transmogrification of the cabbages into a human being. But yeah, she's still viewing beauty as something unchanging or something that, people use or abuse or uh yeah, have. And she's always looking at in terms of like having instead of just being and passing away in terms of natural cycles.
Yeah, it's like a possessiveness of how she kind of views the world and things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always possession. Yeah. So why do you think the queen, I mean, so you think the queen grew a little bit, at least in that she's not trying to focus the beauty on herself, or is that just because I mean, have her own beauty and you have her own power. But I mean, she just can't have her own beauty now, right? So, but she's still trying to have power over Rapunzel. I mean, and yes, she is afraid of Rapunzel's changing or uh losing her beauty maybe as she grows older and maybe with child and whatnot. And but she's still trying to have power, right? It's just over
Mm.
somebody else. It's
Yeah, it's like I feel she learned a little bit at least on a surface level, but fundamentally she doesn't really seem to have changed
yeah.
from the
I mean, she
story. And
has she has less power now. She doesn't have the personal beauty through the
mm,
magic, whatever. So that yeah, that doesn't tell us all that much. It's like if you give someone power, maybe you'll see on a larger scale who they were before, but yeah, the queen just has far less power now. She's able to do far less damage, but she still is kind of, yeah, possessive. Even
mm,
with the rampion or the Rapunzel cabbage, she wasn't it doesn't show her eating it ever. She's always tending it with, the book says something like relentless attention or something. She's still
mhm,
trying to go for this unchanging perfection rather than sort of a natural coming to into being and passing away, and this changing. The food is supposed to be eaten and change into a body, which she ends up only doing to Rapunzel, the girl, this change from food into body through this unnatural contract that she holds over someone else's head.
mm.
It
Oh,
is
yeah, it
weird to
really
have
is.
like this contract where this that leads to life.
Mm.
But yeah, sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, it really is over her head because it's with the hair uh
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
growing everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and yeah, so she shunts Rapunzel away deeper and deeper into the forest, trying to keep her away from all human life, all men.
Hmm.
And then when Rapunzel at age 12 sees Zoran in the kind of this carefree youth, kind of climbing trees and everything, he's getting deep into nature, but also using nature to kind of glory in the heavens, glory in universal harmony and larger celestial bodies and the divine and everything. And he invites her up there, and she has to leave the circle of protection that the witch has ensconced her within to go up there. But then, and she does enjoy the that celestial viewing for a while, but then she has to come back down, but she doesn't know how to do that. She doesn't know how to change levels in life, because she just doesn't have experience. She's sheltered. So then she gets trapped, she gets hurt a little bit, and she cries out. And then, of course, the overprotective mother, like, rushes out and is angry. I don't remember if she strikes her then or not, but yeah, she doubles down on the overprotection, right? And
Hmm.
of course, that initial wounding is kind of like that Rapunzel gets with her bloodied knee, a little bloody knee when she falls down from the tree. That's kind of symbolic of just the 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 pain and the damage you get as you develop and you grow as a child, and also whenever you have blood with like a developing young woman, you always think maybe that's the other type of maturity, sexual maturity as well. It's on her knee, and but
Yeah. Yeah, and then eventually she puts her up in the tower. She thinks um that just being able to view the trees, that should make her happy. It's kind of like what you're saying with the Rapunzels, like she thinks just tending to it and having it is enough without really partaking in it. And it's
yeah.
kind of the same with the how she treats uh just Rapunzel being able to view the trees. Like she feels that her just being able to see it should be enough to make her happy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she doesn't want there to be any consumption in life, any sort of transformation, which is, when you consume food, it transforms into your body. Uh, yeah, she just doesn't want change. She just wants to go deeper into isolation, higher. She goes high up, she puts Rapunzel high up in a tower, but there's no purpose, nothing about like she was before with Zoran in the tree, uh, getting close to the divine. And with the divine, there's also this idea of your highest purpose, but now it's to keep her away from any of the lower purposes, any sort of mixing with other human beings, and yeah, any kind of change. So yeah, so Rapunzel can't make any contact except she can sing. She can't be
Mhm.
seen, she can't talk to people, but but now she can at least sing. So she sings these haunting, melodies, these sad melodies over the woods, and people hear this a long way away. It kind of shows the power of Rapunzel. It's like her beauty would otherwise be told of far and wide, but since she can't be seen, only her song can be heard, but that's also far and wide.
Mhm.
And of course, it's people tell tales about it. They don't know what it is, and woodsmen think of it as siren because it is an attractive kind of song.
Mhm.
And but eventually it does attract a prince, and it views the witch going up and down visiting Rapunzel, and so he uses the same message to Rapunzel, and she brings him up, and Yeah, they visit and they start to fall in love.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it was probably the Zoran kid she met earlier, right? Yeah.
Is it?
That's what
I
I'm
didn't
guessing.
I didn't even think of that.
Like maybe he just had a fake name to hide that he was royal or something when he met.
Hmm. Yeah, I did wonder why they had this Zoran kid and then so if it is Zoran, I mean he ran away the first time when the witch cried out for Rapunzel.
Yeah.
So maybe there's this idea he understands the danger of the witch. And again, when the prince for at the tower sees the witch, he kind of stays away until she goes away.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, both of those seem to indicate the danger of the overprotective mother, and
Mm-hmm.
but she is effective. She does keep away men from her daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, he keeps on going and then he gives her a flower to put in his hair. And they don't think much of it, but when the witch comes to visit Rapunzel again, she notices the flower and then
Yeah, of course.
notices that she's pregnant
I mean,
and
she's
she
sort of
tells the witch.
paranoid. So when you're
Yeah,
paranoid, you're going to notice any sort of little sign. That's
yeah,
part of the probably the function of paranoia.
yeah,
But also, yeah, her
yeah,
belly's growing anyway. So I mean, it's got to be kind
yeah,
of obvious.
yeah. So I think the flower was just symbolic of the fertility and that Rapunzel's like a young woman,
Yeah,
and that yeah, the witch wasn't able to stop that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's adornment too. So
yeah,
um, there's probably something about how long Rapunzel's hair is, and that's from the unnatural sort of protection that she's given. But
yeah,
now she has something, yeah, some kind of adornment, which is kind of like what you use to attract the opposite sex or to enhance your
yeah.
appearance, or, yeah, it's just a general kind of loveliness signal.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like the hair also got me thinking that it was just maybe kind of a symbol of her vulnerability, kind of in a way, since
Yeah.
like I watched an interesting video where a Navajo guy was saying how in the culture, like hair is very spiritually powerful,
Mm,
and so much so that yeah, they grow their hair long and rarely cut it. But
mm,
they also believe that if you leave it exposed, it makes you vulnerable.
mm,
So like any little pieces that fall, they try to be careful that they don't leave hair around because they feel that if you do that, you're kind of vulnerable to magic
mm,
uh, and then you're kind of opening yourself up to people being able to kind of take the hair and do some magic over you
mm.
that could negatively impact you. So they try
Yeah.
to keep it bound. That's why they have it brought bound or in a braid a lot of the time
Mm,
to kind of protect the hair and not be vulnerable to kind of spiritual attacks or magic.
mm.
Yeah. But,
Yeah, that reminds me of the Samson story in the Bible. He
mm,
gets strength from his hair, but yeah, when she cuts it, Delilah cuts it. That's, when he
yeah,
loses his strength.
yeah. And yeah, just in this story, kind of, I feel like the hair is kind of a vehicle for like the witch's control and kind of magic
Yeah,
that she
that's
was
right.
doing on Rapunzel.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes her tumble down from she gets it tangled up in the tree with Zoran, and then that leads to her the terrible ending to the viewing of the stars with Zoran, with the witch coming back and doubling down on her overprotection.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, later on in the tower, the witch uses the hair to climb up to Rapunzel. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is that? It's like using a sign of Rapunzel's youth and beauty to almost in an insulting way to kind of
Mm-hmm.
visit her and enjoy her presence, like the witch is enjoying Rapunzel's presence.
Mm-hmm.
And when Rapunzel wants to leave.
Yeah. And then she attacks the hare, like when she gets to that part of yeah,
That's
when
right.
she wants to leave.
Yeah, well, no one else can use your hair, right? Only
Yeah.
me. And then the prince
Yeah.
is using her hair, and that's no, that's not acceptable. And then she cuts Rapunzel's hair, and then she uses Rapunzel's hair to lure the prince up there and then drop him down and blind him and ruin his spirit and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when, so she couldn't withdraw Rapunzel from the prince enough. So now she disables the prince and she breaks his spirit, with his
Mm-hmm.
fall from a graceful love, from
Mm-hmm.
his fall from, fall from on high. So he
Mm-hmm.
literally falls and he also, as you pointed out, falls in status and he's now a pauper that's laughed at for thinking that he's the prince. So yeah, the prince is now blinded, and as we talked about earlier, he's kind of broken. Um, I wondered why he doesn't just kind of, I don't know, not man up, but sort of man up and just okay, I'm disabled, but I can wander around. I can like in the original story, it says he eats beets and everything, or roots and or in the Grimm's brother story. And in this story, he's begging people from people, and so he is able to survive and wander around. I don't know why he doesn't look for Rapunzel. I mean, I know Rapunzel is shunted away and deeper in the woods. I thought the Grimm brothers story by saying she went into a desert, it's sort of like saying she's in another land, like she's not able to be found, because
Mm-hmm.
he's in this forest land. But it seems like with this story, she's not all that far away. It's just this story emphasizes the prince's disability of body and mind, and
Yeah.
even his being blinded is more, more metaphorical than literal, probably, since he is cured by tears of love.
Yeah. Yes, I think just like when he learns to have gratitude, like you said, it's like it's spiritually he's opened and he's able to see things more clearly.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I mean, I think when you don't have gratitude, yeah, you can't. And this even applies to my own life, I think. And I'm not all the way out of this blindness, but um, yeah, yeah. When you're bitter, you're thinking about what you lost. He loses Rapunzel, and he's losing, and then loses his kingdom, and loses his father too. Uh, and it seems like he's obsessed with this and kind of, you know, fecklessly just telling people randomly about it without trying to, do something about it.
Yeah.
Eventually to the point where when Jack is coronated into the kingship that he was supposed to inherit, he stumbles off into the woods and is ready to just die. And
Hmm.
then, of course, is saved by the hermit who lives in the cave, kind of a
Hmm.
motif.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's why like when he recovers and he's ready to leave, that's why the little hermit tells him to attend to his story because he's been passive a lot of the time. And
Yeah. Yeah, he's been
yeah.
passive, and the mistellings of the story that the hermit gives him uh kind of can teach him, but also they show the reader that hey, he had this knowledge all along, he just wasn't using it.
Mhm.
Like when the hermit tells him Jack's story, but ends it in a stupid way with Jack just playing the harp and then
Yeah.
in the giant's castle and then getting eaten by him. The prince corrects him. Of course, that's not the story. And it's like, okay, if you know these real wisdom stories, why aren't you applying them to your life?
Mhm.
You know, I guess, I mean, he's overcome with the bitterness and resentment.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, like I kind of speculate maybe the hermit already knew those were false versions, but he was
Of
just
course,
trying to kind of ignite a fire.
of course he
Yeah.
did. Yeah, he's trying to get a reaction out of him.
Yeah.
He's trying to wake him up a little bit. I mean, that's in a way why he's blind. He's blind. He's kind of like asleep. He can't see. He's living in this world of illusions of, just feeling sorry for himself, wandering around, not realizing that he can reclaim his love. He could probably reclaim his throne. I mean, his father doesn't die until late in the story. Like he could have, gone back to the castle. He could have been thankful for the people that did help him, but he's only thinking of the people that laughed at him with his crazy stories. But yeah, yeah, it does make sense that he's not able to hear her voice. He's not able to find love again until he gains some wisdom and self knowledge that he already had inside of himself. But it takes the hermit to kind of bring that out to him, to provoke him a little bit, to bring that out to him. And the hermit gives him a reminder to remember your stories when he leaves. And then, so he has gratitude, and so he has wisdom from the hermit, and then he has gratitude with getting alms from the people and sort of mixing with the people and understanding, the little kindnesses and goodnesses that are all around you, which he never realized. And then he's ready to finally hear the voice of love. And there's probably something about the crow cawing before he hears the voice of love that's like reminding him of his mortality, the basic facts of life, and that he doesn't have forever to wander aimlessly. But then, yeah, he is able to hear the voice of love, and then he does still have to struggle and go through some pain for a few days to get to her. And then finally, the expression of her love and sadness upon their reunion cleanses his eyes finally of the last of its bitterness and inward turn and pain and loss to help him to see what he does have and what he could have had all along if he had not been blind. Yeah. Yeah, the witch uh does does a lot with Rapunzel. I mean, she helps Rapunzel to become alive. So in a way it is the witch's daughter too. She's like kind of a mother, just like
Yeah.
in her previous story with Snow White. She was her stepmother. She was kind of a mother. But both times she's kind of a mother, she can't grow fully into the role and be truly kind of loving and help this human being develop and grow up. She has to take the glory for herself, and she ultimately just, yeah, doesn't want this person to have her own life. And that's definitely like I don't know, like a dark side of the mother, um, not wanting the child to be fully themselves. Yeah, how did you feel about that part of the story, that possession and this weird perfection of the
Mhm.
the mother to the child?
I don't really, yeah, I don't really have really different thoughts from beyond what you said, but just that, she kind of disappeared from the story when she dragged her from the castle. So it seems she didn't really fundamentally change as a person, and she's just kind of, I don't know, maybe she'll move on to be a part of the next story, but she didn't seem to have learned from this story.
It's not, I'm sorry, you said she didn't seem to learn from this story also.
she's, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, she doesn't seem to have doubts. I mean, at the beginning of this story, I think, it talked about how even though she had been the evil stepmother from the Snow White story, now the queen here,
mhm,
had been so reduced to living in this childlike house deep in the woods as this old haggard kind of witch
mhm,
crone character.
mhm,
Um, she still has, she's full of bitter kind of regrets. Like
mhm,
she hasn't yet turned that into wisdom and action and some goodness and compassion and
yeah,
trying to live a better life.
yeah, and
And she's still
and
just focused on perfection of beauty, even with these little cabbages.
mhm, and and like, in comparison, well, it seems pretty obvious in the story that the old couple that helped her Rapunzel out with the kids, with they were her parents.
Yeah.
Uh, but in comparison, they're kind of trying to maybe, it seems they regret what happened in the past, and they're trying to show like their compassion and love now towards this, single mother with two children. And
Yeah,
uh,
that's a good point. Um, yeah, and they made a terrible mistake, but they did lose a child and they're poor. And yet later on in life, they don't seem to be bitter. There hasn't been some kind of self-inflicted tragedy,
yeah,
apparently. And when they meet Rapunzel, they're very generous and kind with her,
hmm
and they take joy from her children. The
hmm
woodsman helps her rebuild her house, and the Rapunzel's true mother teaches
hmm
her how to plant a garden. I think plant those Rapunzel cabbages and everything.
hmm
Some sort of generational kind of propagation there.
hmm yeah. And going back to what you said about the perfection with no, the obsession with perfection, like the moment the witch notices that Rapunzel is no longer a virgin and pregnant, she throws her out the castle. But um, the old couple, like she's coming in less than ideal circumstances, and they're still not really concerned about it, or judgmental, and they still show their kindness and love for her.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah,
And
she's a single mother.
yeah, and I remember the witch had called Rapunzel a wilted flower, and that she's been ruined. So
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
her
because of that, yeah, she wanted nothing to do with her anymore.
right, yeah. Yeah, and that's got to be pretty painful as a person that you see as your mother kind of acting that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, that wilted flower exactly. But all flowers wilt. I mean, that's a flower a flower's purpose is to attract pollinators, so that the plant can make new seeds and reproduce and grow and spread and do all that and eventually die. And yeah, a flower is not just what it appears to be to us in a single moment. So yeah, you have to appreciate things for what they really are. You have to, I don't know, it's like an appreciation for the power of beauty, like the evil stepmother slash witch has, is not enough. of course, I always say this, but you need wisdom too, and you need some knowledge too, right? Like the thing you're looking at is part of a process, and you can't just appreciate what your eyes are beholding, what your eyes are apprehending right at that moment. You have to understand it, yeah, more deeply over time as part of a process, especially when you're talking about natural beauty, which is, or natural, I should say, natural living beauty. You could also
Mhm.
appreciate mountains and the cosmos and everything, which
Mhm.
change, but much less and over much longer periods of time,
Mhm.
which this story also points to. But and yeah, and the object of the queen's appreciation at the beginning of the story, and in a way throughout the whole story, the Rapunzel cabbages are something that grow up from the ground.
Mhm.
That's maybe an indication also that she has no sense of the divine, no sense of the higher purpose
Mhm.
in our lives and for our minds.
Mhm. And kind of like you were saying about being able to accept change, which the witch couldn't do. Like towards the end of the story, it says that once the prince was able to see again after he met Rapunzel and she cried on him, he notices that she didn't have the golden hair anymore, like it was brown hair now, and that she looked more tired. But
Yeah,
that
she's
didn't seem
older.
to, yeah, and she's older. She's not, exactly the same Rapunzel from
Yeah,
before, but he still, had his love for her and it didn't impact things or his feelings. And, they still built a life. Um, with his change in status as like a simple couple living a simple life.
yeah,
So he was okay with all the change as long as he still had her by his side and the
yeah.
children.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, that's a big contrast with the witch. And yeah, now that he can really see, he really sees with good eyes. Yeah, unlike the witch. I don't think this story talked about the witch's eyes at all. But yeah, I wonder if you could kind of, in another version, you could contrast the witch's eyes with the prince's eyes or something like that. Yeah, that was a really good point about, yeah, Rapunzel basically, she can still sing, but she loses a lot of the other things that a superficial eye would see in her, like the witch. Yeah, the prince who is, I think he's kind of more proving himself now as a more mature person who could be a good leader, perhaps. He can see well, he cares for others. Uh, but now he's you know, just accepting his place. Although I think there's a hint, of some kind of, or there could be some kind of, I don't know if there's a hint of it, but there could be some kind of clash later on between him and the peasant usurper Jack, the thief Jack.
The social climber.
Yeah. But anything else you want to talk about with this story?
Mm, not so far.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked this story. I liked unpacking it. But people should check it out. Jonathan Pageau's Rapunzel and the Evil Witch. It's also beautifully illustrated. Okay, well, until next time, LL.
Mhm.
Okay, sounds good.